Welcome to Pulse, today's hotel, restaurant, and bar industry news. A deep dive from HRB Universal, navigating your industry. With insights from leaders
From AI agents booking hotel rooms and ordering dinner on your behalf to convenience stores aggressively eating into restaurant market share, we're unpacking the tectonic shifts defining the 2026 hospitality landscape.
Yeah.
Welcome to Pulse Today's Hotel, Restaurant and Bar Industry News Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Brought to you by HRB Universal. We are delivering the critical updates, trend analyses, and operational intelligence you need to stay ahead in hospitality.
It's a brutal, fascinating, and just completely transformed landscape we're analyzing today.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're running a property right now, the sheer volume of shifting variables is likely keeping you up at night.
Oh, absolutely. And if you are that person, whether you're an executive managing a massive regional portfolio of hotels or just an independent restaurateur just trying to keep your single dining room afloat,
Right.
this deep dive is custom tailored exactly for you. So today, our mission is to synthesize a mountain of 2026 strategic outlooks, economic forecasts, and consumer data.
And we have a lot of it.
So much data. We're pulling from heavy hitters, the National Restaurant Association, Data Central, Boston Consulting Group, and Citizens Bank. But we aren't just, reading their headlines. We really want to uncover the why behind the industry's massive pivot away from just playing around with tech.
Yeah, the experimentation phase is over.
It's totally over.
Yeah.
Now it's towards strict, disciplined execution.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we need to figure out exactly how operators can navigate a consumer base that is splitting in wildly different directions based on, age, income, and just sheer exhaustion with high prices.
Yeah, that's the crucial pivot right there. I mean, the era of just throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Yes.
Casually testing a flashy new app or dropping a trendy menu item just for the Instagram aesthetic, that is entirely over. We are seeing a real unforgiving demand for maturity and immediate return on investment in every single operational decision.
Yeah.
Because capital is just too expensive and margins are way too tight to get it wrong in 2026. So true. So let's jump right into the deep end with what might be the single most disruptive technological shift we're seeing this year.
Okay.
It's something that sounds a bit like science fiction, to be honest, but the data proves it is already knocking on the front door of every single hospitality business.
Yeah.
I want to unpack agentic commerce.
Yes. This is the big one. And to really understand it, we have to recognize a fundamental shift in who, or more accurately, what is actually doing the purchasing.
Right.
So agentic commerce involves AI agents, right? Developed by tech giants like OpenAI, and they're deployed to browse the web, select items, place orders, and finalize payments on a human customer's behalf.
Okay, wait, pause right there. I want to make sure I am visualizing this correctly, because when people hear AI in hospitality, they usually think of, a chatbot on a website answering questions about parking.
Right.
Or maybe like a dynamic pricing algorithm for hotel rooms. But you are saying the AI is the actual customer in this scenario. That is exactly the distinction.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about a chatbot answering a query. We are talking about an autonomous digital proxy.
Wow.
Think of it like this. A human user tells their AI assistant, I need to go to Chicago next Tuesday for 2 nights, book a mid-scale hotel near the Loop, keep it under $250 a night, and order me a spicy tuna roll for delivery to the room at 7 p.m. on the first night.
Just giving it a verbal command.
Exactly. And then the human doesn't open a browser.
Yeah.
They don't look at Expedia. They don't open a delivery app. The AI agent navigates the web, reads the hotel options, executes the booking, uses the human stored payment credentials, coordinates the delivery order, and completes the entire sequence.
That is wild. It's less like traditional SEO and more like hiring a digital butler who is violently protective of your wallet and your time.
That's a great way to put it.
Because you aren't pitching to a human anymore.
Yeah.
You have to convince the butler that your restaurant or your hotel is like the mathematically optimal choice.
A digital butler is the perfect analogy. And the industry is just starting to wake up to the reality of having to cater to this new entity. The data shows 73% of hospitality businesses are at least familiar with the concept of agentic commerce.
But there is a massive gap between being familiar and actually knowing how to operate in that environment.
Oh, a massive gap. Only 11% of those businesses consider themselves very familiar.
Okay.
So there is a steep, often painful learning curve happening in real time. Meanwhile, consumer adoption is quietly but rapidly creeping up.
Really?
Yeah, 14% of Americans have already used an AI shopper in some capacity. And on the merchant side, roughly 1 in 3 businesses report they have already seen customers using agentic tools to buy from them.
Okay, so if I'm an operator, my first instinct is probably to panic or resist
Right.
because it feels like I'm losing control of the guest relationship. Like, why should a business actually want these AI agents interacting with their systems?
2 words: conversion rates. That is the magic phrase here. Human buyers experience a tremendous amount of friction. We get distracted by a text message. We second guess our budget right at the checkout screen. We get frustrated if a website takes 3 seconds to load.
Yeah, and then we abandon the cart.
Exactly. We abandon our carts. AI agents do not experience buyer's remorse. They don't get distracted. If they're given a mandate to buy, they remove that buyer's friction completely.
Oh, I see.
So analysts at Bernstein, they estimate the seamless process could boost global e-commerce conversions by 1.5% to 2.5% across the board.
Which doesn't sound like a lot until you apply it to the sheer volume of global transactions.
Right, right. But let's look at a more targeted, aggressive statistic. If you look at the 2025 holiday season, Salesforce reported that agentic AI sources drove a conversion rate 300% higher than regular human transactions.
300%.
Yeah.
Okay, that is a number that forces you to completely rethink your digital strategy.
You have to.
Because typical online restaurant or direct booking hotel conversion rates are usually stuck in the, low single digits?
Very low. Yeah.
So if you can triple that just by letting an AI process the order, you almost have to adopt it.
You do. You absolutely do. And beyond just closing the immediate sale, there is a massive long-term data play here, too.
Okay.
When a human sets up an AI agent, they give it strict parameters to operate within. They feed it their age, budget constraints, past buying habits, dietary restrictions, preferred amenities.
Right.
If a merchant system is integrated properly, these agents can share that deep, granular data with the restaurant or hotel.
Oh, well.
So suddenly, before a guest even walks through your physical doors, you have unprecedented, highly accurate insight into exactly who they are and what they value.
That sounds like a marketer's dream.
It is.
But let me push back here, because this opens a massive can of worms regarding security.
Oh, yeah.
If I give an AI my credit card and it autonomously makes purchases, what happens if the AI goes rogue? What if it, hallucinates and orders 500 spicy tuna rolls instead of 1?
Yeah.
Or what if a bad actor programs a bot to maliciously drain inventory? How does a restaurant's point of sale system even know it's a legitimate transaction?
Well, you've hit on the exact tension the industry is currently grappling with.
Yeah.
And the operators know it. In fact, 42% of operators are highly concerned about this, specifically regarding fraud and dispute resolution.
Makes sense.
Because historically, our entire payment security infrastructure has been entirely focused on preventing sales to non-humans.
Right.
We use CAPI CHAs, we use two-factor authentication, we use, click all the boxes with traffic lights to stop bots from buying concert tickets or spamming reservations.
Yeah, the entire system is built to keep the bots out.
Exactly. But now we have to clear a safe, designated path for the bots to buy.
Which is so counterintuitive.
It is, and that requires entirely new authentication processes. The credit card networks are scrambling to standardize this. MasterCard, for instance, points out that the human must remain in the loop at the very end of the funnel.
Okay, so how does that work?
So the AI does all the shopping, selects the items, pre-fills the cart, but then a notification pings the human's smartphone, requiring a biometric thumbprint scan or facial recognition to finalize the AI's chosen purchase.
Oh, okay. So it's delegated shopping, but human-approved spending.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. But there is another massive issue here, I think.
What's that?
Bias in discovery.
Ah, yes.
Because if I tell my AI butler to, find me the best pizza in Austin, how does it decide? Can a massive multinational chain with a huge tech budget just game the algorithm to ensure they are always the top pick and just bury the independent pizzeria down the street?
This raises what is perhaps the most important question of 2026 regarding digital marketing, and that's algorithmic relevance.
Algorithm relevance.
Right. For decades, brand equity was fundamentally tied to legacy name recognition, billboards, human nostalgia.
Right, like I saw a commercial when I was a kid, so I trust the brand.
Exactly. But that is shifting toward machine readability.
So unpack machine readability for me. What does that actually look like in practice for a restaurant manager?
Well, it means that if your restaurant's digital footprint isn't perfectly structured for a machine to scrape, parse, and understand, you effectively do not exist to that AI agent.
Invisible.
Completely invisible. Let's use a very common example. A lot of independent restaurants still upload a PDF of their menu to their website.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Right. And to a human, a PDF looks nice. You can read the font, you can see the prices. To an AI agent, a PDF is often just a flat, unreadable image.
Ah,
It cannot confidently extract the price of the linguine, it cannot verify if the linguine is gluten-free, and it cannot cross-reference the ingredients with the user's dietary profile.
so because the AI butler can't guarantee the meal fits the boss's parameters, it just skips that restaurant entirely.
Precisely. To be machine-readable, an operator must use standardized API tags.
Okay.
The menu needs metadata. Every item needs an exact price code, a calorie count, and specific allergen tags embedded in the code of the website. If the AI is instructed to find a peanut-free restaurant under $30 a head, it will only select from the pool of restaurants that have those exact data points clearly defined in their back-end architecture.
That is a staggering reality check.
Yeah,
So a great chef making the best food in the city could go out of business simply because their website code isn't formatted for an AI scraper.
exactly.
And it's not just happening in the food and beverage sector, right? Hotels are undergoing this same massive AI-first transformation, but they are applying it in very different ways from what I understand.
Oh, totally. The Boston Consulting Group data on the hotel sector's approach is incredible because it highlights a total bifurcation of strategy based on the property segment.
How so?
Well, in economy and mid-scale properties, the entire AI focus is pure operational efficiency and cost reduction. We are talking about fully automated biometric check-ins where a guest bypasses the front desk entirely, and heavy robotic automation.
Like those relay robots we are starting to see rolling around the hallways.
Yes, exactly. Relay robots are becoming deeply integrated with property management software and even the physical elevator systems.
No way.
Yeah, they're delivering fresh towels, room service, minibar restocks directly to the guest rooms. But here is where the agentic AI comes in. It's not just a remote control car.
Right.
The AI sequences the deliveries for maximum efficiency. It actively reroutes the robots around a housekeeper's cart blocking a hallway, and it resolves logistical issues in real time.
That's amazing.
It severely cuts down on low-value staff time, especially during the notoriously hard-to-staff night shifts.
Okay, so it takes the friction out of the physical building, just like it takes friction out of the digital checkout.
Yes.
But then, if you look at the luxury end of the hotel spectrum, the five-star resorts,
Yeah.
they aren't replacing their staff with robots, right?
No, not at all.
It's the total opposite application of the same underlying technology.
Right. Because in luxury, the core product isn't just a bed. It is high-touch, intuitive human service.
Yes.
So luxury brands are using AI to completely offload administrative behind-the-scenes tasks. They use AI to manage the inventory, predict the staffing models, and synthesize guest preferences. The goal is to free the concierges, the front desk agents, the support staff from staring down at computer screens all day.
Right, because if you're looking at a screen, you aren't looking at the guest.
Exactly. By removing the administrative burden, the staff can actually look guests in the eye, anticipate their needs, and create deeply personalized, empathetic experiences that a robot could never replicate.
So if I'm synthesizing all of this for a hospitality executive listening right now, the immediate mandate is pretty clear. First, you have to audit and overhaul your digital presence.
Yes.
Your databases, your menus, your operating hours. All of it must be strictly machine readable.
Absolutely.
Because if you are still relying on PDFs or outdated web templates, you're basically invisible to the most aggressive new purchasing demographic on the internet.
Invisible. And internally, you have to start embedding AI into your staff-facing tools today. This isn't just about, guest-facing gimmicks.
Right.
We are talking about using AI to accelerate employee onboarding, instantly translating training materials, reducing training costs, and even providing real-time prompts to servers suggesting specific menu items based on a predictive analysis of the guest's behavior.
Like having an earpiece that says, suggest the Cabernet.
Exactly like that. Simultaneously, you must get on the phone with your payment processors and point-of-sale vendors to ensure your authentication systems are updated.
Oh yeah, biometric stuff.
You have to be ready to safely process these agent-driven transactions without opening yourself up to massive fraud disputes.
Which is a perfect segue, actually, because while AI is theoretically streamlining the digital front door and optimizing operations, the physical reality of running a hospitality business right now is, well, to be blunt, it is facing a brutal reality check.
Brutal is the right word.
The margin squeeze is suffocating.
Oh, yeah.
And it is creating massive openings for entirely new, unexpected competitors to steal market share.
Yeah, the physical execution of hospitality is under siege from compounding costs. The digital tools are great, they really are, but they don't change the fact that the physical ingredients and the human beings required to cook and serve them have become exponentially more expensive.
Yeah, let's look at the sobering numbers from 2025. The independent restaurant sector actually shrank by 2.3%.
Yeah.
Full-service restaurants took the biggest hit, contracting by 2.6%, while limited service and quick service shrank by 1.8%.
Yeah.
We are seeing a physical contraction of the industry.
And if we pull back and look at the trajectory, this is entirely a story of baseline costs resetting at a much higher level. Food and labor costs have surged 35% over the past 5 years.
35%. That's insane.
Think about what that does to a standard P&L statement. A 35% baseline increase before you even turn the lights on.
Right.
And the pressure isn't easing. In 2025 alone, 91% of operators reported further food cost increases. This relentless pressure has driven average restaurant profit margins down to a razor-thin 3% to 9%.
A 3% margin.
I
mean, you drop a case of premium steaks or your walk-in cooler breaks down on a Friday night, and your profit for the entire month is literally wiped out.
Wiped out.
It leaves zero room for error. And the most shocking stat from the National Restaurant Association is that a staggering 42% of operators reported their business simply wasn't profitable last year.
Yeah.
4 out of 10 restaurants are operating in the red.
Right. And historically, the industry playbook had a very simple solution to rising costs.
Just raise the prices.
Just reprint the menus and raise the prices, pass it on to the guest. But in 2026, pricing elasticity has completely evaporated. The consumer is tapped out.
Yeah, they're done. The James Beard Foundation and Deloitte released some fascinating data on this.
Yeah.
They found that independent restaurants that tried to force price increases of more than 10% to cover their costs actually ended up reporting lower overall profits.
Because the consumer behavior shifted aggressively. When a standard burger and fries crossed the $20 threshold, consumers simply stopped coming.
Yeah, I would too.
Or they traded down significantly, right? Ordering water instead of a beer, skipping the appetizer, splitting an entree. The math of raising prices broke because the foot traffic cratered.
Right.
So margin management can no longer be solved with a pricing band-aid. It has become entirely reactive and defensive.
So independent restaurants raise prices by 10% just to survive, but they lose profit because customers bail. Where are those customers going?
That's the million-dollar question.
Because they aren't suddenly becoming gourmet chefs and cooking every meal at home.
Yeah.
They still want convenience, but they refuse to pay the premium.
Right.
And this perfectly sets the stage for the most surprising predator in the food space right now.
Oh, yeah.
They're pulling up to the local gas station.
Exactly. Convenience stores.
So crazy to think about.
The C-store convergence is one of the most vital disruptive trends of 2026. Data Essentials research shows that 40% of consumers now say C-store food offerings are actively improving.
40%.
That is up from 38% just 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That represents a massive, sustained shift in public perception.
I have to admit, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Are people actually driving to a gas station specifically for quality food? Or is this just a pure convenience play born out of desperation because restaurant prices are too high?
It is a powerful combination of both, and it's heavily split by generation. Proximity is definitely still the foundational driver. I mean, 43% of people say they choose a C-store because it is close to home or work. And 41% are there because they are already getting gas. But here is the critical demographic shift. Younger consumers are actively treating C-stores like quick-service restaurants.
Really? Like it's a destination?
Yes. 25% of Gen Z and 28% of millennials are specifically visiting C-stores with the primary goal of finding the best food deals. Compare that to just 12% of boomers who view C-stores that way.
That is a staggering generational divide. So Gen Z and millennials are looking at a modern C-store, your Wawas, your Buc-ee's, your elevated regional chains, and they're perceiving them as the last bastion of true value.
Yes. They can get a bespoke spicy chicken sandwich for $4 that actually tastes good, whereas the drive-thru down the street wants $11 for a commercial item.
Wow.
C-stores are actively stealing market share from QSRs and limited service restaurants.
They are eating the QSR market share alive in certain day parts.
They really are. And the financial mechanics of a C-store make them incredibly dangerous competitors. The impulse buying behavior in a convenience setting is a goldmine.
Oh, sure, you walk in for a sandwich and leave with chips and a drink.
Exactly. 33% of consumers end up buying unplanned food simply from walking around the store. 26% are drawn in by eye-catching packaging, and 25% by new, adventurous flavor profiles.
Wow.
C-stores have evolved. We are no longer talking about stale, packaged goods spinning endlessly under a heat lamp. They have invested heavily in supply chains and are executing food programs at a legitimate restaurant level.
Which brings us back to the restaurant operators who are watching this happen. How do they fight back when they are dealing with these crushed 3% margins and a consumer base fleeing to convenience stores?
It's tough.
A huge part of this inability to compete seems to stem from the labor crisis. But the data shows the labor crisis has morphed. It's no longer just about finding a dishwasher. It's a crisis specifically at the management level.
Yeah, the labor dynamics have shifted in a very specific structural way. Overall turnover in the full-service sector actually declined in 2025.
Okay, that's good news, right?
On the surface, yes. The broader labor market softened slightly, unemployment ticked up a bit, and entry-level employees, servers, line cooks, hosts, they decided it was safer to stay put rather than job hop for an extra 50 cents an hour.
Right.
The bleeding at the bottom stopped, but the structural crisis is at the general manager level.
Managerial turnover is hovering at a terrifying 35%.
And the financial impact of that is devastating. Replacing a single general manager costs a business upwards of $17,000 in direct and indirect costs.
Okay, explain that math to me, because $17,000 sounds incredibly high for a single position turnover. Where is that money going?
It's the hidden costs of leadership instability.
Okay.
When you lose a GM, you don't just lose a body, you lose profound institutional knowledge.
Oh, right.
You lose the person who knows exactly how to schedule the Friday night shift to avoid overtime. The person who knows the local produce vendor by name and can negotiate a break on tomato prices. The person who knows which regulars need VIP treatment. When they leave, staff morale plummets, training costs spike for the replacement, and you almost always see a temporary but severe dip in food quality and service consistency.
That makes total sense.
For a business operating on a 3% margin, a $17,000 hit just to replace one manager can literally wipe out half a year of profit for that location.
It's a localized economic disaster every time a GM hands in their keys.
It really is.
And why are they leaving? It's burnout.
Oh, it's 100%.
They are the ones bearing the brunt of the margin squeeze, the customer complaints about pricing, and just the sheer operational stress. So what is the strategy here? You can't just pay them double if the margin doesn't exist.
The strategy requires a pivot toward what the industry is calling ROI-linked technology.
ROI-linked technology.
Right. In the past, operators might buy a flashy software suite just because it looked modern. Now, every tech investment has to explicitly and measurably control costs or improve quality of life for management.
For example, using AI-driven scheduling tools. Instead of a GM spending 4 hours in the back office pulling their hair out trying to accommodate everyone's shift requests and avoid overtime, the AI analyzes historical foot traffic, weather patterns, and staff availability, and spits out an optimized schedule in seconds.
Exactly. It removes the administrative drudgery that causes burnout. Combine that with offering genuine cross-training and flexible schedules, and you start to create an environment where a GM might actually want to stay. Those are the levers you have to pull to stop the bleeding of managerial turnover.
And what about the C-store operators who are listening? Because they have the momentum right now. How do they keep it?
They have to lean into the momentum by treating food as a core competency, not just a side hustle to selling gasoline.
Right.
To continue capturing that Gen Z and millennial audience, C-stores must relentlessly innovate with adventurous flavor profiles, think global street food inspirations, and customizable build-your-own format.
Oh yeah, they love the customization.
The younger demographic wants to control their food experience.
But there's a trap there, right? Because if you pivot entirely to Gen Z, you risk alienating the older demographic.
And that is the tightrope. Bridging the generational divide is essential for both C-stores and traditional restaurants. You absolutely need the frictionless scan and pay tech, the self-serve kiosks, and the bold flavors for the younger crowd.
Yeah.
But you cannot alienate the boomers, who still command massive spending power. Boomers demand the fundamentals: clean, fresh, and friendly service. Maintaining visible quality signals is non-negotiable for building trust with that demographic.
Visible quality signals, meaning if I walk into a C-store and the coffee station is a disaster zone of spilled sugar and empty milk carafes, the boomer customer immediately assumes the kitchen in the back is just as dirty, and they won't buy the food.
Precisely. Impeccably clean facilities, brilliantly lit fresh food displays, and staff that actually look up and say hello.
Right.
Those basics never go out of style, and they are the anchor that keeps the older demographic spending money while you experiment with AI checkouts for the younger crowd.
So we've established that to survive this brutal margin squeeze and invest in the tech needed to retain managers, operators need capital.
Yep.
But to secure and protect that capital, they're having to navigate a legal, regulatory, and cultural minefield that is becoming incredibly complex in 2026.
The compliance burden is undoubtedly raising overhead costs across the board. And the timing couldn't be worse, hitting right at the exact moment that swipe fees from credit card processors and skyrocketing commercial utility costs are already straining operations to the breaking point.
Let's map out this legislative landscape because it's coming from all sides.
It really is.
At the federal level, the FTC's rule on unfair or deceptive fees is a massive structural change to how restaurants do business. They're heavily cracking down on hidden pricing.
This is the death of the drip pricing model.
Drip pricing.
Yeah. Over the last few years, to combat rising food costs without raising the listed menu price, many restaurants started adding surcharges at the bottom of the receipt. A 3% kitchen appreciation fee, a 5% supply chain surcharge, a 2% local mandate fee.
Right.
The FTC is stepping in and saying, no more. The price the consumer sees on the menu must be the total price they pay, excluding government taxes.
Which forces restaurants to bake those costs back into the core menu price, risking that consumer sticker shock we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
And that's just the federal level. Yep. At the state level, operators are dealing with a patchwork of new, highly specific mandates.
It is a compliance nightmare for multi-state operators. You have aggressive new minimum wage increases taking effect. In New York, there are stringent updates to the Earned Safe and Sick Time Act, known as ESTA.
Oh yeah, ESTA.
New Jersey has significantly expanded its Family Leave Act. These laws expand employee eligibility and create new, strict compliance tracking obligations for hospitality employers. If your payroll software isn't automatically tracking these accruals, you are opening yourself up to massive state audits.
We are also seeing much stricter legally enforced mandates for allergen labeling, particularly on digital platforms.
Right.
If you're using third-party delivery apps or maintaining digital menus, those allergen warnings can no longer be buried in a disclaimer at the bottom of the page. They have to be front and center, tied to specific items. Plus, there is a massive renewed focus from state legislatures on workplace violence prevention protocols,
which requires mandatory paid employee training on active threat de-escalation and emergency response.
More costs.
When you layer all these legal requirements, the training hours, the software upgrades for compliance tracking, the potential fines over the 3% margin pressures we just discussed, you can clearly see why the M&A market, mergers and acquisitions, is suddenly experiencing a massive resurgence in 2026.
That makes total sense. It's almost a pressure cooker forcing consolidation. The small independent operator looks at the FTC rules, the new state labor tracking, the cost of an AI-ready website, and they just throw their hands up and say, you know, I'm out. I want to sell.
Precisely. We are seeing a wave of consolidation. After a long period of subdued activity where buyers and sellers couldn't agree on valuations, interest rates are finally easing enough to make borrowing attractive again.
Okay.
And private equity firms are sitting on historic, unprecedented levels of dry powder, capital that has been raised but remains uninvested. They are hungry and they are hunting for specific targets.
What exactly does a private equity firm want to buy in a market this tough?
They are looking for asset-light franchisors, high-performing multi-unit franchisees, and concepts with incredibly resilient, proven unit economics. They don't want a struggling concept they have to fix.
They just want a money printer.
They want a machine they can pour money into to scale rapidly.
Because the data from Citizens Bank shows a very clear picture of who is actually spending money right now. Higher income consumers are the ones driving the vast majority of food away from home demand.
Yeah.
The middle class is pulled back, but the top earners are still dining out. So if you own a premium concept or a highly efficient quick service model that caters perfectly to value seekers, you are a prime acquisition target.
Yes, this M&A rebound provides a very viable, lucrative exit strategy for exhausted independent operators or a massive growth injection for regional platforms looking to scale their footprint nationally.
But there is one more massive consumer shift compounding all of this financial pressure. And frankly, I think this might be the most culturally significant trend of the decade.
What's that?
We need to talk about alcohol sales.
The drop in alcohol consumption is fundamentally rewriting restaurant economics.
Across the entire U.S., operators are reporting double-digit drops in alcohol sales, even in venues where overall foot traffic remains completely steady. People are still going out to dinner, they're still sitting at the bar, but they simply aren't drinking booze like they used to.
And to understand the panic this is causing in the C-suite, you have to understand the foundational unit economics of a restaurant.
Right.
Alcohol has traditionally been the highest margin item on any menu. A $15 cocktail might only cost the restaurant $3 in physical ingredients. A $25 chicken entree might cost $9 to plate.
Oh, wow, that's a huge difference.
Alcohol was the financial cushion. It was the high-margin subsidy that allowed operators to absorb the rising cost of the food and the labor.
So when that cocktail order turns into an order for tap water or a $4 diet soda, that 80% margin cushion completely deflates.
Completely deflates.
It leaves a massive gaping hole in the check average. You can't just sell more chicken to make up for the lost profit of 3 martinis. The math doesn't work. Why is this happening? Is it purely a health and wellness trend?
Health and wellness is a major factor, particularly among Gen Z and younger millennials who are hyper-aware of the physical and mental impacts of alcohol.
Sure.
But it is also deeply tied to the economic pressures we've been discussing. When the consumer is feeling the pinch of inflation, a $16 cocktail is the easiest thing to cut from the budget to keep the overall dinner bill manageable.
That's true.
It's a combination of cultural sobriety trends and sheer financial fatigue.
So what does this all mean for the operator on the ground? It sounds like you had to be a legal scholar to navigate the state and federal compliance, an AI expert to get guests in the door, and then when they finally sit down for happy hour. Well, no one is even drinking alcohol anymore. How do operators protect their profitability in this environment?
They have to re-engineer their business models immediately, starting with the low-hanging fruit. On the regulatory side, the absolute first step is to audit your pricing architecture today.
Okay.
Ensure 100% pricing transparency across every single digital app, physical menu, and drive-through board to avoid FTC scrutiny. Hidden fees will cost you infinitely more in federal fines and local reputational damage than they will ever generate in revenue.
Yet you cannot afford a viral TikTok video of a guest exposing a hidden 5% fee on their receipt. That kind of bad PR is a death sentence right now.
Exactly.
Furthermore, operators must invest heavily in defensive staff training. You have to utilize resources like the National Restaurant Association ServeSafe program to implement those mandatory active threat de-escalation protocols and bulletproof allergen guidelines. The legal liability of a slip-up in 2026 is business ending.
Absolutely. And finally, addressing the massive hole left by the alcohol drought. The industry is rapidly pivoting its beverage innovation to fill that specific revenue and margin gap. You can't just offer water. Operators need to lean heavily into premium mocktails, functional energy drinks, and highly crafted cold caffeine beverages.
But how do you convince a guest to pay $12 or $14 for something without alcohol in it?
Through presentation and perceived value.
Okay.
You don't just pour juice in a glass. You use artisanal syrups, nitrogen infusions, dehydrated garnishes, high-end glassware. You treat the mocktail with the exact same culinary respect as a craft cocktail.
I see.
These premium non-alcoholic beverages carry margins very similar to alcohol. And culinary forecasters note a fascinating pairing trend. Operators are successfully pairing these new complex beverage programs with 2026's hottest food trends, which are heavily rooted in comfort and nostalgia.
Right. People are stressed, so they want comfort food. High-end smashed burgers, elevated chef-driven instant noodles with premium proteins.
Exactly. You pair a nostalgic, highly satisfying comfort dish with a premium, high-margin, cold caffeine beverage, and you can successfully rebuild the check average and offset those falling liquor revenues.
Wow.
Ultimately, surviving and thriving in the 2026 landscape comes down to moving beyond isolated digital gimmicks or panicky, reactive menu changes. It requires the disciplined, mature integration of your people, your processes, and your technology to create a unified, deeply resilient enterprise.
Man, that is incredibly insightful. That wraps up today's edition of Pulse. Before you get back to your floor or executive suite, make sure to check out the other powerful shows in the HRB Universal Network. Kitchen to C-Suite, your definitive roadmap for advancing hospitality careers from entry-level up to executive leadership. Mise en place, culture-first leadership, and organizational strategies focused on safety, compliance, and building top-tier workplace culture. The Recipe for Results podcast extra fast, high-impact extras packed with operational tactics and actionable solutions. 86 airing the bad habits, cutting out systemic operational flaws, bad leadership habits, and inefficient practices across hotels, bars, and restaurants. This podcast is supported by the generous commitment of our sponsors, and we extend a special thank you to HRB Universal. Their dedication to providing comprehensive resources and promoting excellence is key to empowering professionals across the culinary and hospitality industries. We also want to acknowledge the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program. This initiative exemplifies a true commitment to fostering shared success and equitable growth within the food and beverage sector, helping entrepreneurs build a more inclusive and thriving future. The journey to the C-suite is fueled by innovation, relentless dedication, and the right network. We encourage you to engage with the resources and support offered by our sponsors. For details on how to connect with HRB Universal and the Plate and Pour Collective Equity Partner Program, visit hrbuni.com or search HRB Universal online. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode, where we will continue to explore captivating topics designed to elevate your career and entrepreneurial drive. Stay ahead with Pulsaby. Today's hotel, restaurant, and bar industry news deep dive brought to you by HRB Universal. Miss a beat. Whether you're commuting to work or unwinding on the couch, we've got your industry insights covered. On the go. Subscribe and listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, Deezer, or visit hrbuni.com. Mobile app. Take the HRB network with you everywhere by getting our mobile web app at hrbuni.com/NE-APP. Big screen experience. Level up your show viewing stream Pulse directly on TV via Roku or Amazon Fire TV. Until next time, keep innovating and striving for excellence. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to chew on this week. If AI agents are increasingly making all of our purchasing decisions, optimizing purely for price, speed, and algorithmic matching, will the traditional concept of brand loyalty and hospitality eventually go entirely extinct?